I sometimes have people ask me about the past when I've tried to set up a debate with another content creator, or if anyone on Discord just messages me and challenges me to a debate. I've had people ask me about both of those instances. So let this brief video provide some more insight to that. Now, as I've mentioned before, I challenged both FACEandLMS as well as ITV or Rehab Room to a debate. I already covered FACEandLMS to a good length, so for this video, I'm just going to skip him and move on to Rehab Room. So, a few years ago, around 2021, I challenged Rehab Room, and this was back when his name was ITV. So I challenged him to a debate. He actually responded quickly. He made a video about me and a community post as well. He quickly said that he would never debate me because he was simply too scared. Very similar to how FACEandLMS admitted to being a coward in the screenshot that I showed. Now, in response to that, I stated multiple times that ITV or Rehab Room retreated in defeat. That was a phrase that I created. And it simply means that he declined the debate because he knew he'd lose. You see, when someone acts as an authority and makes a lot of claims, but then gets chin-checked and challenged, they always run away if they know they're going to lose, because why would someone want to lose so brutally? This is one of the most common things that you can observe in nature when you have two different competitors, if you will. If one knows or if one has any instinct that they don't have the upper hand, oftentimes they defer, they submit, they retreat, they yield, they surrender. And that's exactly what FACE did, and that's exactly what Rehab Room did. Now, I want to make this very clear. This isn't any personal attack on these individuals. I'm just calling history as it truly occurred when it pertains to certain online personas. So as I created more and more videos back in 2021 and 2022, I made numerous references over that period of time where I would say Rehab Room or ITV, he retreated in defeat. And Rehab Room, he saw my videos, he saw the parts where I said he retreated in defeat, and he acknowledged it. He conceded to this reality. So Rehab Room has nothing to hide here. He did chicken out of the debate because he knew he'd lose. He said so. And then he publicly conceded to this reality, and he takes ownership of this cowardice, just like FACEandLMS did and probably still does. Now, moving on to another individual. This person goes by the name of Lowinhib, but his YouTube account name, let's just abbreviate it as BBS. So, this guy is the current admin of it still exists. I was going to say the old server. I guess it is an old server at this point. The server is named Mamoon, and I've mentioned this before. He left a comment on one of my more recent videos a couple of weeks ago, I think, and he wanted to have some type of discourse with me about the WMAF. I already somewhat covered this in a previous video, but for additional commentary, I will add Oscar took our text and gave it to an AI judge to act as an unbiased third party in deeming who had the stronger showing in our argument. So the actual transcript of my comment section, word for word, verbatim, was uploaded. And so I'll read through the results just so there isn't any confusion. So Oscar first types to the AI judge. He says, BP 2021, which is me, by the way, debated someone briefly in the comment section of one of his latest videos. See the transcript. BP's name is World Peace Economist, and some dude accused him of eschewing. I want you to adjudicate their brief debate as an AI judge. The AI judge responds by saying, of course, I will adjudicate this brief debate as an AI judge, analyzing the structure, content, and effectiveness of each participant's arguments. As an AI judge, I will adjudicate this exchange based on the quality of argumentation, use of evidence, and logical coherence. Final ruling, winner, World Peace Economist, also known as BP 2021. That's me. BP 2021 wins this debate decisively on points. While his opponent, Black Pill Backshots 8489, but we'll abbreviate that as BBS, landed an initial rhetorical blow, BP 2021 successfully defended his position, enforced a burden of proof, and exposed logical fallacies in his opponent's arguments. BBS failed to meet the burden of proof he himself implicitly accepted. 1. Burden of proof and evidence. BP 2021 consistently and effectively enforced the burden of proof. His repeated requests for examples, data, sources, and empirical evidence, such as provide examples, bring all your data and examples, can you provide sources and empirical evidence of this, are the core of a strong negative position. He makes a falsifiable claim, the rate has declined, and points to multiple types of evidence to support it, intermarriage data, AI validation, and his own social media surveys. BBS failed to meet this burden. His entire argument rests on the assertion that the trend is visibly online and that he has tons of evidence. However, he provides zero specific examples, data points, or links in the debate. When challenged, he deflects by saying the evidence is posted elsewhere, posted in Mamoon, first server, which is not a valid form of evidence in a live debate. This is a critical failure. Now, I will interject here and say this really wasn't necessarily a known debate between us, so I'll ignore that previous part, but I will say when he did invite me to Mamoon, he didn't provide anything to me. It was just more of the same. He just was spamming me with claims, giving me conjecture. It's all claims and conjecture. And he moves goalposts, and he relies on double standards, and he eschews my data. But before I get too much into that, I'll just say, even giving him the benefit of going into another forum to continue our discourse that at least could emerge or act as some type of debate, he didn't provide anything. He just kept giving me more claims. So moving on. 2. Logical coherence and fallacies. BBS committed several logical fallacies. The first, special pleading. He dismisses BP 2021's use of intermarriage data as outdated, while simultaneously presenting unsourced social media trends, Oxford study tags, as valid empirical evidence. This is a clear double standard, which BP 2021 correctly identifies. I actually did call that out, so it's good to see. And what do you know? Moving the goalposts. This guy probably moved the goalposts to the 4th degree. I have gone over this before, but let me just read this. Moving the goalposts. He shifts from talking about Oxford study tags to numerous singular coupled accounts that aren't aggregated, making his claim intentionally vague and harder to pin down or disprove. Ad hominem and snuck presupposition. His use of LOL cope and imagine relying solely on the search query is a rhetorical dismissal that doesn't address the argument. It also sneaks in the presupposition that his method is superior without justifying why. BP 2021 maintained a more logically consistent position. He defined his terms. The Oxford study is a social media tag, stuck to his core argument, the rate has declined, and used his opponent's lack of evidence to demonstrate that the affirmative case was unsubstantiated. 3. Strategic positioning. BP 2021 successfully framed himself as the open-minded, evidence-based participant. His offers to debate on Discord, his claim to cover the full picture, and his contrast of himself with other BPers who censor or eschew realities is a powerful rhetorical move that builds credibility. BBS ended the exchange by accepting the Discord invite, which tacitly admits that his arguments in the comment section were insufficient and that he needs a different forum to make his case. This was a concession that his points here were unproven. Now, I will also add that when I did go into the server, he didn't provide anything. It was still just the claim game. And it actually made him and his server look worse because there was one guy who was making logical fallacies left and right, and he even admitted to doing so. And there was no need to even do them, so it didn't even make any sense. His actual points were very absurd. They were very inaccurate. I don't even think Lowinhib agreed with the points of his own fellow server mate, if you will. And then there was another individual who was making the claim, or who lives by the philosophy that less data is better than more data of equal quality. That doesn't make any sense at all. And then Lowinhib, also known as BBS, he didn't provide anything. He just wanted to keep firing off claims. So even the fact that I accepted his invite, we went into the Mamoon server, It's now a different forum. He didn't provide anything. It was still just the claim game. So he still failed. And if anything, Mamoon made his case look even worse. BBS's failure to provide a single example, coupled with his logical fallacies, means he failed to discharge his burden of proof. BP 2021 successfully defended his position by exposing this failure. The verdict: World Peace Economist is the clear winner of this exchange. His victory is based on superior debate tactics, consistent enforcement of the burden of proof, and the exposure of logical inconsistencies in his opponent's case. Now, lastly, I want to add, bear in mind that this guy, BBS, first came at me saying that I was eschewing, which is truly laughable, because I'm always the advocate for the full picture. He said that I was eschewing, but then he wanted to eschew literally all of my support and evidence in all of my videos and start with a clean slate. He literally told me in Mamoon that he wanted to start with a clean slate, meaning forget and disqualify everything that I've shown. Now, why would he want to do that? He would want to do that because he wouldn't want to stand in the pocket and trade with me. He doesn't want to go punch for punch because he knows he would get knocked the fuck out. See, this guy is on TikTok and he sees like a few videos, right? And he says he has so many, but it's amazing because they never can actually link them to you. They don't have any compilation. They don't have any proof of any of this. It's all claims. And a lot for him, right, is probably not that much. See, unless you're truly documenting or keeping some track or referring to someone else's compilation to help keep some type of number at where you're at in terms of what you viewed, it's very difficult if you're going to do the methodology of surveying social media. He could be seeing X amount and he could think that's a lot. That's, oh my God, so many. It's so prevalent. But unless he actually has kept track of those, unless he has some ballpark figure as to how many cases he's seen of that, he has no idea. And we then have no idea. You need some type of figure, some type of concrete figure. So then you could then compare that against other things on TikTok or whatever the platform is, and you could sort of then dial in just how much you have, just how much you've been able to sample from a widely adopted platform that can speak for a good chunk of society. But he doesn't have any figure, and he never gave me actual links. So when he says, oh my God, that's so much, that's subjective. That's not concrete. That's not objective. I don't know what oh my God so much is. That could mean X for person A. That could mean Y for person B. I don't know what oh my God so much is. I've been doing this for a long time. So it takes a lot to impress me. For something to be oh my God that's so much, that's probably going to be a much, 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 much higher number for me than it is for someone else. I'm not nearly as impressionable with certain trends on social media because I've seen plenty of trends and I know what a high trajectory is because I compare it against others and I have hard concrete numbers for what I've observed. This guy doesn't have that. He just says, oh my God, that's so much. Okay, well, we're speaking in subjective terms. That could mean A, B, C, D, and so on and so forth for different individuals respectively. I don't know what that really means. But the main point being the fact that he was coming at me saying that I was eschewing, again, classical projection. These guys always project their failures and faults and flaws onto others. So if he comes at someone saying they're eschewing, he's actually the one doing the eschewing. And beyond that, I mean, it's a mental illness level double standard, right? For someone to disqualify a whole lump sum of evidence and data and support, and then to say that you were the one eschewing, and then on top of that, only provide a claim by saying, oh my God, just go on TikTok, bro, I see it, it's just so much. And then they don't even show you anything. Like, how deep can you go with your examples? You know, and I've asked this before. What's a lot? Like 50, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 1,000? What do you consider a lot? And where are those examples, if such is the case? And then you can compare it against me, and we'll see if that's really a lot. But for someone to do that, they have to stand in the ring They have to stand in the pocket. They have to let the hands fly. They have to stand and bang. They have to trade. But these guys don't actually want to do that because they don't want to get tagged. So all they do is make claims and then they run away. They retreat in defeat, which now brings me to the last person for this video. He goes by the name of Zimmerman, and I've mentioned him before. And actually, Zimmerman, I will give some credit to because he's one of, I think he might be the only person that actually was willing to stand and bang, that was willing to stand in the pocket and trade with me. And this was a very fast exchange. So basically, he wanted to argue on behalf of the WMAF and its prowess. And he also wanted to argue against the AMWF. So, and this was his idea, by the way. This was his idea. He said, let's refer to ChatGPT. He wanted to refer to an unbiased third-party source that would do an overview of all of the known data. It would fetch it and then quickly validate and qualify the data to then draw conclusions when you compare the WMAF against the AMWF. And he said that if the WMAF is showing weakness and if the AMWF is showing strength, he will then concede. And I said, okay, sure, fire it up. It's fine by me, let's go. And as you could see in our message, you could see the final line of the ChatGPT. And you could see our concluding exchange we had with one another. Zimmerman posted the results from ChatGPT. All I did was simply restate what the results were. I said, see if you look, WMAF, typically the male earns more. The AMWF, it says it's more balanced. That's because the WMAF has always been beta bucks. Also, WMAF says declining, AMWF increasing. Zimmerman says, you know what, don't message me again, bye. And in the previous message, he said, if I was correct and he was wrong, he would say he would do the you know what, which he literally says, and he would stop messaging me, he would take his defeat, and he would go on his merry way. And that's what he did. So at least Zimmerman stood in the pocket. Yeah, he got knocked the fuck out, but at least he actually had the balls to stand and trade with me. But that's why these guys don't want to do it, because they know they're just going to get knocked out. None of these guys actually want to stand and trade. They don't want to stand and bang. They just want to run their mouths. They just want to fire off claims. They just want to masturbate with conjecture. That's all they do. And then they run away. And then they retreat in defeat.